开始录了。
Is it working?
Wait a minute. Not yet.
Weird. I think it's the internet.
It's sharing now.
Okay. Oh yeah, I think I can see it's moving.
Yep.
Right?
Yes.
Okay,
Perfect.
cool. Great.
Okay.
So I'm gonna mute myself for now.
Okay, no problem.
Oh, great. I can see the screen. That is fine. Okay. Just not really sure how to mute myself. Okay.
Okay. So I think we will wait until there's more students coming, and I just can start maybe 2:05 or 2:10. Okay.
Yeah. Sure, no problem.
So take your time.
I'm still having my morning coffee.
Okay.各位同学，如果你们有同学认识的人，他们想要参与这个讲座，然后还没上线的，也可以提醒他们 ，OK？ 然后或者是你身边有其他的同学也想要参与，但是来不及报名的，也可以传这个链接给他们。我们的会议室的人数上限都还蛮够的。 Okay, students, the event will start at 10 past 2. So please just wait a moment and you can connect your classmates who are interested in this event. You can share the link with them also. So please patient and wait a moment. Thank you.再提醒同学，如果你们是从学校的报名系统报名此次讲座的，也请你们，如果你的显示不是中文名字，你可以打一下，把你的名字跟学号打在对话窗里面，这样子我们才可以帮你进行那个讲座的时数登录哦。那如果你还来不及报名学校的报名系统，那也麻烦你可以把你的学号跟名字打在讯息对话框中，之后我们事后会帮你做活动的时数登录。 Okay, our event will start in 1 minute. Okay, it's already 10 past 2, so we just start our event. So welcome to all students that you interested in this event. And it's our pleasure to invite Sharon. She has worked in the international non-governmental organization for more than 5 years. And she also traveled around the world. So she is working for the MED. I don't know how to pronounce. Yeah, it's a kind of international non-governmental organization in Switzerland. Okay, so if I have some misinformation, please correct me. Okay, Sharon. Yeah. So it's our pleasure to invite her to share her cross-cultural experience in Africa with us. Yeah. So let's welcome Sharon. She is going to share her daily life in INGO worker in her experience. Okay, thank you. The floor is yours, Sharon.
Hi, everyone. And sorry, good afternoon. It's actually good morning for me.
Yeah.
And thank you for 济南大学. Okay, so the reason behind it is I was invited to do this presentation. And then unfortunately, my laptop can only type in English. So I told the colleagues and said, I can only make a presentation slide in English. And then she said, why not make the presentation as well in English? Well, but yes, I'm from Taiwan. So in the whole presentation, if you have any questions, feel free to ask in English or Mandarin. Yeah, or if I speak too fast, let me know. Anyway, I'm very happy to be here. And I hope this can be, because I am a few thousands kilometers away from Taiwan. So I know the online seminars or presentations always not as fun, but do try to engage. So I would like to, maybe in a few slides, I'll ask questions. Luckily, I have 2 screens, so you're going to see me looking that directions quite a lot because my presentation is actually on that screen. So the presentation is the daily life of INGO worker, but actually I'm not only going to talk about my daily life because my daily life can be quite boring. It's just our dormitory and our office. So, okay, let me try to move the slide. And then now we have a bit of technical issue. Let me try and see what happened. Not sure how should we do this. Okay, great. So we have 2 hours, and actually I'm not so sure how long it would take, but it's the breakdown of how my presentation is. I'm gonna tell you how I started my journey, which is not the regular journey people would think of. And then to have a bit of understanding on DRC in Congo. Africa can be quite unfamiliar to people, especially I think in Taiwan. You can also share if you have anything that you think how Africa must be like. But I'm only for it's a big continent, so I live in DRC, so I'm just gonna talk about a little bit of the historical background. It's quite interesting actually, and then a life as a humanitarian aid worker. Also a bit about what is humanitarian aid, and also how to be a humanitarian if you want to be, or I'm not asking people to devote themselves into the career, but there are so many other things that you can do for the world. A little bit of myself. I started working for NGO back in 2014, but I started in the organization I actually started in the organization in Taiwan. So, and then I was born in the 1980s. So 1980s, not 1980, in between 1980. I don't want to specify and to know how old I am. I don't see myself have different talent, but I do know that there's one thing I can do is I know how to say I'm a crazy girl in 6 United Nations official languages. So can anyone tell me what are the 6 UN official languages are? Well, I know Taiwan is not in the UN, but in my heart we are. So any idea, do you know where, do you know what are the 6 official United languages? Or you can open up your mic. This is like, I'm very freestyle. So, and I want to hear you as well.
Okay, students, don't be shy. You can just raise your hand. Click, raise your hand, or you can leave a message. Okay, you can type also. So that's why you join this event. You can just share your idea.
Do anyone know what are the 6 United Nations official languages are?
I guess French.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, French is one. I think most people in this call speak 2 already.
Any idea?
No.
Silence. Hello, guys. Oh, students.
It's okay. Maybe it's the afternoon and people just had food and everybody's in food coma. No? Okay. So, oh, thank you. Unfortunately, German is not, due to what have happened in World War II. So German is not. But thank you for answering. Yes, our language is one of the 6 languages. So we already, as I said, people in this call at least speak 2. Yes. Not Italian. So now we have French. Yes, Arabic. I think one more. So we have French. We have what? French. Yes. Okay, we have everything now. So Spanish, Arabic, Mandarin. What did I say? No. Spanish, Arabic, French, English, Mandarin. And what is the last one? Okay. The last one is the country that you see on the news now every day. And the whole world is trying to sanction that country. Russia, yeah. Okay. So Russian. There are the 6 United Nations languages. So since we already opened up the conversation, so since now I'm telling you who am I, can you also type in the chat, let me know what is your major in the university? Are you in grad school, or are you doing your BA? Just let me know of a little bit of your background. What are you studying? And also type in the chat what makes you want to join this session on a Friday afternoon. So yeah, just type and then I will do my presentation along the way. So feel free to type your major and then why do you want to join this, how to call it, the presentation. You can also say just only because I want the credit from the school. Just be honest. Yeah. So I'm gonna jump to screen. So I'm hoping I'll be okay. Okay, hold on. Where am I? Sorry, technical errors. I'm sorry. Oops. I think I accidentally jumped out of the presentation.
Really? It's okay from our
no.
side.
It's okay. Yeah, sorry. It's okay on your side, huh?
Yes. So students, don't be shy to leave your message, okay? Just type and send out.
Yeah. Okay, so Inge has already mentioned, so I've been living in and out of Africa since 2016. So from 2014, I started my job in the NGO in Taiwan. But before coming to Congo in 2019, I was based in Malawi. And then since 2019, I work for a Swiss INGO called MEDAIR. It's okay that if you don't know. I know we have a weird name. So first of all, maybe just let me to explain you how I started my journey as a humanitarian aid worker. Okay, don't know. This presentation is not working. Voila. All right. When I was maybe at your age, I don't like to talk about age. I really want to improve my French because I started to learn French when I was in university. And I found an opportunity to go to France to do an international volunteer exchange program. It's called ICYE. So at that time, I told my father, finally, I'm going to France for a year to experience life, to be a volunteer, to learn French. And at the time of me, I was in my early 20s. So he told me, if you want to be a volunteer and learn French, you should go to French-speaking African countries. Imagine me at the time wasn't like me right now. I said no. I don't want to go to like developing countries or country in wars. I want to go to developed countries, and everybody fancy Europe and want to have feelings of the life in Europe. So that was me now. That was me by then. And then who knows? I think life is always full of surprise. And after France, I got back to Taiwan. I started working for corporates, working for companies. And I started to think, what is the meaning of a job? Why do I have to work from 9 to 6 every day, or maybe sometimes 9 to 8 every day, and to use my time to help the company to generate the biggest profit? And so I started to question myself, and I asked myself, what can I do to combine my job and then also contribute to the society? So then I decided to, because to do a career change is not that straightforward, or it's not that easy. Then I went to do a master degree that is completely different from what my study background. And that was for getting prepared to go into the NGO sector, people say. And that's how I started my NGO journey. And then today we're talking about Congo. So we are not talking about my past working histories and all. Congo is a country that is second largest in Africa. And then it's the largest in sub-Saharan Africa. And it's, to have a better understanding, it's about, if I am right, it's about 65 times Taiwan. The province is where I am. I'm in the eastern part of the country. I will give you a more of a map later to let you know where I am. And then even the province where I am right now is bigger than Taiwan. So you can see the population. Unfortunately, you might just think that what you think, it is also true that the third largest populations of poor globally, and then 73 populations, 60 million live less than, we called it the poverty line. So it's $1.9 a day. And you can read all that. So as you know, what is the big country is actually suffering through, we'll see, especially since 1990s. But Africa is not just it's not just about poverty. Okay, I can see no one type in the chat. Okay, great.
Type.
Sorry? Yeah. I'm gonna show you a video. It's about 12 minutes, and it tells you about the whole history in Congo. But that guy speaks pretty fast, and I hope you can catch up. Let me try to... And then... No, I'm not sure where I am. Okay. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna start.
Okay.
Of course, world history, and today we're going to talk about the Congo. Mr. Green, we're going to talk about the Congo? No, me from the past, you idiot. That is a dance. However, your epic ignorance does indicate that perhaps we don't do a particularly good job when it comes to talking about African history in world history classes. So today we're going to look at what happened to the Congo after decolonization, but in particular what happened during the 1990s and early 2000s as Congo, or Zaire, or the Democratic Republic of Congo, was embroiled in what some people have called Africa's World War. European colonization in Africa was generally pretty, bad, but it was particularly terrible in the Congo. There's a great book about it called King Leopold's Ghost, which details the brutality of life under Leopold's Congo Free State and the international efforts to improve things there. Leopold essentially owned Congo, and he ruled it as his private fiefdom from 1884 until 1906, when he was forced to turn over the colony to the Belgian government. From 1906 until independence in 1960, the territory was known as the Belgian Congo, and while the Belgians were far less brutal than Leopold's agents had been, life for the Congolese under Belgian rule was also not good. And then there was this sudden decolonization in the Congo, and in a lot of ways the region was unprepared to become an independent state. Like, the Congo's new leaders didn't have much formal education or leadership experience. There weren't many trained experts in really anything. There were very few college graduates. No one had the skills to run an army or a government or an economy. But I want to be clear, that wasn't the Congo's fault. It was because there weren't educational or leadership opportunities available to Congolese people. In 1965, a former army sergeant and journalist named Joseph Mobutu staged a coup and seized control of the government. Now, he turned out to be a terrible leader, but in his first decade in charge, he did some good stuff. For instance, he hosted the Rumble in the Jungle, arguably the greatest heavyweight boxing match of all time between Muhammad Ali and George Foreman, featuring the famous rope-a-dope. Stan says he did some actually important things and that boxing isn't actually important. Okay, from 1965 to 1975, Mobutu was able to build the economy based on this huge copper boom. And then he destroyed the economy by appropriating most of the local businesses and turning them over to his cronies. He built the first hydroelectric dam in the region, as well as hospitals, and most importantly for his rule, a state television system that could broadcast national pageantry that celebrated Mobutu and his family. Mobutu also changed the name of the country in 1971 from Congo to Zaire, and he changed the name of many colonial cities, like Leopoldville became Kinshasa, Stanleyville became Kisangani, Elizabethville became Lubumbashi, and initially his coup was seen as a positive by many Congolese, but pretty early on it became clear that this wasn't going to be like a peaceful, open government. And Mobutu's Zaire was also really corrupt. Like, the underlying source of Mobutu's power was his ability to grant favors to his friends, a strategy known as clientelism or cronyism, and Mobutu was great at it. And in order to keep his cronies happy, Mobutu raided the national treasury again and again. He actually stymied development in order to get more foreign aid, which he then used as an alternative source of income. And then there was this huge crash of commodity prices, including copper, that followed the Vietnam War, and that plunged Zaire into debt. In 1975, Zaire Zaire's foreign debt totaled $887. The next year, the IMF launched its first stabilization plan for Zaire, a loan of $47 million. In exchange for that loan, Mobutu agreed to cut public spending, devalue the currency, raise taxes, and put the country's financial house in order. Needless to say, that did not happen. There was a need for more and more and more loans, and by 1990, Zaire's total national debt topped out at $10 billion. But even as Mobutu drove Zaire into decline, there were no serious challenges to his power because opposition was incredibly risky. Critics of the regime faced arrest, torture, exile, at times murder, and in the end, it was outside forces that forced Mobutu from power. So the Rwandan genocide of 1994 is familiar to many Americans, often as an example of the impotence of America in the face of post-Cold War problems, and also because it was horrific. But less well known is the role that these events played in the disintegration of the Congo. So conflict in Rwanda between Hutu and Tutsi people probably predates Rwanda's independence from Belgium in 1962. But the path to genocide began in 1990 when the Tutsi-led Rwandan Patriotic Front began to cross the border into Rwanda from their bases in Uganda. Between 1990 and 1994, approximately 20,000 people were killed and 1.5 million displaced in this conflict. And then in 1994, the plane of Rwanda's Hutu president was shot down, and Rwandan Hutus began murdering Rwandan Tutsis, killing between 800,000 and 1 million people in 3 months. This did not stop the Rwandan Patriotic Front, which in fact increased its attacks on Rwanda, and then under leader Paul Kagame, they succeeded in taking over the country, leading to more than 2 million people fleeing, most of them to eastern Zaire. Almost 850,000 people crowded into refugee camps around the city of Goma in Zaire. Kagame desperately wanted to hold the Hutus living in those refugee camps accountable for crimes against Tutsis, but in order to do that, he would have to invade a sovereign territory. So he helped to set up the Alliance de Forces Démocratiques pour la Libération, and yes, I did take 3 years of high school French. The AFDL, or AFDL for us French speakers, was made up of Zairians and would do the dirty work of killing Hutu refugees for Kagame, and to outside eyes, it would appear to be a domestic uprising against Mobutu. So on May 29, 1997, the victorious AFDL leader Laurent Kabila was sworn in as president of the newly renamed Democratic Republic of Congo. Mobutu fled to Morocco and died there 4 months later. And that's where the story should end, with the fall of the dictator and the rise of a new nation that lives up to the democratic in its name. But that did not happen. Between 1997 and 2000, everything in the Congo fell apart and the country descended further into chaos. Kabila's rapid conquest of Zaire and the ouster of Mobutu, along with the killing of hundreds of thousands of Rwandan refugees, was what some call the First Congo War. The Second Congo War was the revolt against Kabila that lasted from 1998 to 2002. Kabila proved inept and authoritarian and an astonishingly poor head of state, but his biggest mistake was expelling the Rwandans who had helped put him into power, which is what started the Second Congo War. Like a lot of conflicts, this isn't a straightforward good versus evil thing, and it's also not a thing with just two sides. There are also a lot of initialisms involved, which makes it a little bit hard to follow, but its basic contours are relatively straightforward. Let's go to the thought bubble. So Rwanda invaded the Congo and nearly took Kinshasa, but Kabila was able to put together a coalition of other countries that saw Rwanda, Uganda, and Burundi as a threat. This coalition, which included Angola and Namibia, stopped the Rwandan advance and the fighting, leading to the Lusaka peace agreement, which, as you might suspect, did not last. The fighting instead shifted to the eastern part of the DRC, especially the rich mining regions of Kivu and Katanga, and pretty quickly, the cause of the fighting turned from politics to profit. Kabila's government supported local militias who fought the Rwandan and Ugandan armies and then eventually each other over control of the valuable gold, diamonds, and other resources there. Fighting provided a sense of purpose and also one of the only ways to make a living in a failed economy. It was also incredibly brutal. According to one man who participated in the horror, a soldier is like a dog. If you open the gate, he causes damage. In the morning before we set out, our leader would say, "Go and do something foolish." We ransacked houses, we took cell phones, money, and gold necklaces from people. There was also widespread rape and murder. The war continued so long because it was so profitable, but a turning point came when Laurent Kabila was assassinated by some of his own child soldier bodyguards in January 2001. African diplomats negotiated a ceasefire largely in South Africa, and the resulting peace accord required a 2-year transitional period monitored by the largest UN peacekeeping force ever assembled. Thanks, Thought Bubble. So this transitional government continued continued the Congolese pattern of corruption. According to historian David Van Rybroek, they emulated the abuses of Mobutuism with a zeal that would have startled Mobutu himself. In the absence of an effective central government, nonprofit organizations and local civil society agencies, including Pentecostal churches, stepped in to provide some of the services that governments usually provide. And then on July 30th, 2006, the Democratic Republic of Congo held elections for president and parliament. Now, no single presidential candidate won a majority, and in the runoff election on December 6th, Joseph Kabila, son of Laurent Kabila, became Congo's first democratically elected president since 1960. What kind of democracy elects family dynasties? The Adams, the Roosevelts, the Bushes. We tried to do the Kennedys, but they kept getting assassinated. Sorry, this isn't a particularly funny episode. Even the jokes are dismal. The DRC created a new constitution with checks and balances, a new parliament, and a constitutional court. On paper, it looked good, but Kabila proved to be a ruler in his father's mold. He used violence to silence his main rival and had little control over most of his soldiers. The parliament voted salary increases for themselves while shirking most of the other responsibilities of governing. By 2009, only 5 countries scored lower than the DRC in the UN Human Development Index. Today, 30% of the population is illiterate and 54% have no access to clean drinking water. Now, for many Westerners, this is continued proof of Congo's backwardness, perhaps even hopelessness. And it's true that this region has had tremendous struggles in the 50 years since Europe left more or less overnight, having created an infrastructure that was designed not for a nation state, but for a colony whose resources were to be extracted for the wealth of the colonizer. But these days, there is a new player in the world of international economic development, China. And this is one of the most interesting stories in the world today. Initially, the first Chinese investors in the DRC were private traders willing to gamble on the Wild West aspects of Congolese capitalism. But in 2007, the DRC negotiated a huge deal with the People's Republic of China. China would invest $9 billion in the DRC's infrastructure in return for future revenue from DRC resources. Now, to many, this looks a lot like neo-colonialism. We'll help build your country if only we can extract your resources. But at least so far, the biggest complaints have come not from the Congolese people, but from the IMF and other Western financial institutions that stand to lose the only leverage over the DRC that they still possess. So this is a very complicated relationship. Like, for instance, Congolese women are taking advantage of new commercial relationships with China to start their own businesses. And that's really cool. On the other hand, cheap Chinese textiles are destroying local manufacture in the DRC, just as they are almost everywhere. And it's far too soon to say whether this is going to be great for the people of the DRC or will be just another example of large powers using less powerful countries as like pawns in some big geopolitical game. Americans tend to have very negative views about Africa, which they tend to imagine very monolithically. But Africa is huge, and it is also hugely diverse. 7 of the 10 fastest growing nations in the world are in Africa. The DRC is not one of them, precisely because of the instability that it has seen in the last 50 years. This is one of the largest nations in Africa, probably the richest in natural resources. It's a magnet for Chinese investment, which will certainly be one of the most important stories in coming decades. And it's played a pivotal role in sub-Saharan African history in the last 50 years. Conflicts in the DRC also led to the largest UN peacekeeping intervention to date, the first joint European Union military action, and the first arrests and trials of the International Criminal Court. So this is a vital place in the world to understand and to study and to pay attention to. The events of the past 50 years in this part of the world are important for Congolese people who have suffered through them, but they're also important for the rest of us. As David Van Rybroek argues, Congolese history has helped to determine and form the history of the world. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week. Crash Course is filmed here in the Chad and Stacey Emicolt.
Oops. Hello? Is everybody still awake?
Yeah.
Okay. I hope it wasn't too difficult to catch up.
I think maybe you can just a little bit briefly explain for the video. Maybe sometimes for them it's maybe too faster.
Too fast, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me try to. I need to stop sharing and then restart. 1 second. I don't know why I keep on hearing the echo, so I'm just okay. Yeah. Okay. So I still don't see anything in the chat. So if well, just feel free to type anything. No one told me what major or what department they are. That's okay. Okay, so just maybe let me try to see what is the next slide. Okay, it's later. All right. DRC, I will give you a bit of the historical background maybe in this after this slides. So well, I actually just took the slide from my organization, so it's not promoting my organization. So just let you know a bit of background of where are we currently working at the moment. So MEDAIR is a humanitarian organization. So in the humanitarian world, we call it humanitarian or development. The term humanitarians is our intervention is basically focused on emergency, such as human disasters. For example, that's what happening between Russia and Ukraine. That is war or natural disasters. So you can see the country that we worked in are the countries that pretty much have a lot of issues. So Bangladesh, because they host a lot of Rohingya refugees from Myanmar, or Madagascar, they regularly have a lot of, recently they have like famine issue problems, and after famine they just had one huge hurricane, and then I think another one is going to happen soon. And then Afghanistan, of course. And so we are not a very big organization. So that's why you see we only have about 10 countries that we're currently working in. And so what do? Is we provide basic needs of health services. In the video, why it jumps there automatically. In the video, the host, the YouTube video, he said that it's the NGOs that they are providing their services that's supposed to be provided by the government. And that's true. That's exactly what we're doing. We provide free healthcare in the clinics in certain regions, mostly in the very, very remote areas. I have a colleague who just came back from the field. You need to first take a helicopter, and then you take a motorbike for 3 hours on the muddy road, and then you walk for another 5 hours to reach the place that we serve. So we provide basically provide free healthcare, and then also free medicines, and also the referral. For example, if someone has a complicated situation and we pay for the transport to transport that patient to a place where they have a bigger hospital. And alongside that, we also have a nutrition project. As you can see the data earlier that especially in the villages, that under the age of malnutrition rate under age of 5 is very, very high, especially in the village. So that's why we part of the big work that we do. I think it also says in the name of our organization, MED. So this is just an example of a local clinic or maternity. And then we also, together with health, we call it WASH. In the sector, we call it WASH. We will say, oh, what sector do you work in? And we say WASH. It's not saying we are washing stuff. It's water, sanitation, and hygiene. We call it WASH. Then we build, perhaps it's borehole or gravity-laid water structure or a toilet in the health center that we serve in. So this is, when I joined the program, it was Ebola time, and it has the biggest Ebola outbreak since the end of 2018. And then it eventually stopped in around mid-2020. So, and in Ebola times, the most important thing is wash your hands, because Ebola transmitted through sweat, through blood. So if you it's not airborne diseases like COVID, but if you sit together with Ebola patients and then you accidentally touch the sweat, then it might have the possibility to get infected. So we do a lot of hand washing station like this doing Ebola project. Okay. Okay, so I promise I will come back to a bit of the Congolese Congolese history. I have to say, after being 3 years here, I still not master it super well because it's so complicated. And I agree as what says in the video that a war is sometimes it's not just the good, the evil, and the story never just a one-side story. And especially a place like Congo, it's so complex that it's hard to understand because it's geopolitics. It's also together with the mining, together also with the tribal issues. It's really, really complicated. So just for you to know, after 1960, so after Mobutu empowered, between 1960 and 1975, there was already a bit of like war. And during Mobutu time, it was stabilized for about 15 years, even though he was corrupted. I mean, pretty much all Africa dictators are corrupted. I hope I'm saying this quite politically correct. And then after Kabila got empowered, what's happening in Congo is the most you see the past 2 decades since the 1990s. It has largely influences the relationship with Rwanda. So such a big country, but got actually Rwanda has such a big influence on the country that has so much bigger than Rwanda. Everything here is all those, how to say, the insecurity actually started from 1994. I believe that people would understand. Do you all hear about, or maybe if anyone born in after or before 1994? Okay, thank you. I saw someone is studied foreign language and literature. Great. For me, the Rwanda genocide in 1994 is something we need to focus on because that is something that happens in the recent decades. And it's not just having the influence on Rwanda itself, because there were about 800,000 people killed in 3 months' time. So it started from 1994, from April all the way to July. So it's the... he mentioned Hutu and Tutsi, right? So it's the Hutu people, they... Great, good to know that you want credits. So it's the Hutu people, they want to... How do I say it? Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm not very good with telling the history. So just to give you a bit of background, during the Belgian colonization, Tutsi is the minority. So they have majority of peoples of Hutu. So Hutu people, if you look at them physically, they are shorter and they have like big nose. But Tutsi people, they are very tall, they are very thin, they are really, really beautiful and elegant. But they are the minority. So the colonizer, Belgian, because they don't want to empower the majority, so they empower the minority. So they give them more chances to have work, education, and all the opportunities. And of course, the Hutu people will not be happy about it. And so the conflict in between has been started in 1970. So when after the genocide happened, so it's either the Hutu, they kill their neighbor Tutsi. So they just took out the machete, they kill nobody because they kill someone just because they are Tutsi, or they even kill Hutu because those Hutu, if a Hutu don't want to kill the Tutsi, they also kill the other Hutu. But so after the genocide, there are 2 million of Hutu people. They are the murderer. They fled into Goma is actually where I am right now. Then that's how the history started of the influences around the influences, and also the second war has already finished in 2002. It's after 20 years. Why Congo is still so unstable? Because of the mining. So Congo has all the mines that you can think of. Congo has all the things that you can find. I'm gonna say it in Mandarin. 所有你在化学元素表上面找得到的化学元素，在刚果都找得到。Because I don't know how to say it in English. So it's such a rich country. That's why people don't want it to be peaceful, because all the foreign companies, they want to explode this country. So, sorry, I'm very bad in telling histories, but if you're interested in it, I'm gonna send you the link of that YouTube video and you can rewatch it again. Okay. So this is where you can see from the map. You can see even the name of the lake is Lake Albert, is like a very colonial name. So you see a border side of Rwanda here. I don't know. Yeah, here, this is where we have operation. And also this is Beni, where we have operation. And also this is Goma. This is where I am right now. So I actually live by the lake. It's called Lake Kivu. Actually, I'm facing the lake right now. It's actually a very, very beautiful place, and people might think it's dangerous, but it's a great place to be. Well, not that great, but okay. My job as HR manager. So HR is human resources. So I do basically the same thing as the other HR manager, maybe in Taiwan, maybe slightly different. I do recruitment, onboarding, offboarding, managing salary scale, performance management, staff management, capacity building, training, staff well-being, and coordination with the government. That's a big part of the job, because Congolese government sometimes is not that easy to deal with, which is make my job a little bit different than the HR job in Taiwan is disciplinary and even investigation or conflict management. Disciplinary, we do a lot because fraud and corruptions are here. It's everywhere. So that is from top to bottom. It's inside the society. Which is also the biggest frustration that I have in my job. So we need to do a lot of investigation, and then especially when logistic is doing some procurement, then that's the time that you need to be careful. Maybe your staff is trying to pocket the money into their pocket. So when people talk about humanitarian workers, you always see the image of people distributing food, or we go to the most difficult places. So that's why I said, when my family and friends or general public think the humanitarian work is working in the field, food distribution and all that. As a matter of fact, my job, 95% or even more of time is working from the office, and my table is piled up with papers, and so it's office job, basically. It doesn't have much of differences. And then talk about the challenges of an aid worker is first humanitarian access, corruption that I mentioned, burnout, and security. So humanitarian access is a lot of times, if you want to serve people in a rural area, but that area is either controlled by the government, military from the government, or from an armed group, then that is the time that is quite difficult to get access. So we need to have a lot of negotiation with the government or with the village, because humanitarian access also does mean that if you want to provide access to a certain village, a lot of time it's the village don't want to accept you. So you need to get like acceptance. And so that sometimes is a challenge. And also corruption is, as I mentioned earlier on my previous slides, corruption is also a big challenge in this sector. Burnout, yes, especially in a lot of humanitarian world, that people having a very strict security measure. For example, you cannot go out after 6. So then your life become, you go to work, and then off work, the only place you can go is your team house or is your dormitory. And also the stress of work due to the security situation in the place. And so I know a lot of colleagues actually getting burnout quite easily. And that's a bit of myself at the moment after being 3 years in this country. And then also security issues. This is just a slide to see. This is, oh, thank you. I saw finally some feedback in the chat. Let me know that you are awake. And so this is just a chat from UN OCHA to show you a little bit of what's going on. I know the words might be a bit small. So every month they have different issues. For example, population movements, because armed groups sometimes they attack different villages, and they sort of their population movements, or they are civil unrest. So living in this kind of environment is we need to cope with the situation that things can happen every month at every moment. So we need to be prepared. For example, we are told to have like our run bag prepared. The run bag is anything that we can grab it in any emergency, and then we can just basically run. And then security issue here, kidnapping. The kidnapping situation happened to different NGO workers. We actually in 2019 in May, we had 2 of our colleagues, but they are Congolese colleagues. They were kidnapped for 2 months. In prison, yes, I also have an expatriate colleague who got into a prison for a weird reason. Civil unrest happened a lot. So civil unrest is when the population is not happy, they go on street, and then so there might be some clash in between. Diseases, so Ebola, measles, malaria, and now COVID, and natural disaster. So these 2 pictures that I'm showing you is, one is in 2019, we had a colleague who has a symptom that we were worried that he got Ebola. So they sent an entourage to our team house, and then to test, to get his blood. And unfortunately, it wasn't Ebola. I think he only had malaria. On the picture of the right-hand side, it's volcano eruption. So that volcano called DR-Congo is an active volcano, erupted in May in 2021, and I was happening to be here. It was quite an experience of experiencing the eruptions of volcano, alongside with maybe 500 earthquakes coming after that, which was a quite interesting experience. You can see the data, like 260 security incidents directly affected humanitarian personnel, beginning of 2021, that is just in Congo. So that is a bit of the life here. But apart from that, life as a humanitarian aid worker can be also quite interesting, because we live and we work with people from literally around the world. We can go out to have a dinner, and easily we are 10 different nationalities on the table and eating together. So we also do a lot of fun activities. During COVID, we turning our living room into a movie theater, and I teach the colleague how to make sushi. We had salsa class, and we even do the relay marathons in the city of Goma. And then when people actually think, okay, your life in the field must be super hard, when people think that my living condition could be living in the hut. But in fact, this is our team house, and this is where I am right now. I love this house. This house is very beautiful, and this house is helping us to relax after the stressful work. And this is the Lake Kivu that our friendly neighbor, Lake Kivu. So Congo is not just about suffering, and it's also a very, very beautiful country. It's like untouched paradise because of the conflict. Not so many tourists come to destroy the beauty. Congo is also well known. A lot of people say, Congo, they think of gorillas. So finally, I went to see gorilla in December 2020. So this is the gorilla in Congo. Congo is also a country that has a lot of pop music culture, Afro music culture, and also local artists. They are trying to express themselves through arts. So I think when we look at the world, and this is not just about the suffering, of course, yes, they are, but there are so many people living in this country, and they are trying to live their life and then to present their culture. Now I'm going to something more a bit of theoretical things. Humanitarian assistance, of course, people would say, charity, or it depends how you see it. The objective for humanitarian action to save life, of course, alleviate suffering and maintain human dignity during and in the aftermath of man-made crisis or natural disaster, in a manner that respect and restore person dignity. So man-made crisis, as I said, like war, situation in Myanmar, or maybe, I hope not, sometimes I really wish the war doesn't exist, so we humanitarians, we don't have a job anymore. And then natural disasters, for example, after Haiti earthquake, or the earthquake after earthquake in Nepal, or the typhoon in the Philippines. So there are a few humanitarian principles that we need to follow. Should be guided by humanitarian principle of humanity. Of course, it's in our names, isn't it? And impartiality. That means our implementations of actions solely on the basis of needs, without discrimination. Of course, discrimination. There's so many discrimination in the world. We don't discriminate their ethnics. We don't discriminate their races. We don't discriminate language, and also the religion, the religion of the population. Neutrality, meaning that humanitarian action must not favor any side in an armed conflict. So in the situation, we need to be totally neutral, because in the place like this, sometimes it's because it's so complex, so we need to be neutral. And because we cannot take sides. For example, we cannot ask a military to open the road for us. We need to open the road ourselves, because the military is not neutral at all. And independence. Independence is trying to have the autonomy of being out from the political, economic, and all the military or other objective. The principles are there. And also this is the system. I'm just going to do it real quick. It's pretty complex. Okay. So we have, of course, individuals, taxpayers, we have donations, and we have governments. For example, my agency is largely rely on we call it institutional donor. So the institutional donor, we get money from European Union, or we get money from the US government, or we get money from the UN agencies too. And so this is how complex this is, where the money come from, and then how does the system work? Okay, so the government also found the militaries, yes. Local communities and beneficiaries, so it's not that straightforward. And the media. But 40 years of development effort have passed without any fundamental changes in the life of the rural poor. Unfortunately, it is sadly true. The humanitarian sector as a whole is failing to mount timely and adequate responses in the acute phase of conflict-related emergencies. That is also true. Why it's so difficult? Because all this humanitarian complexity and challenges. Complexity is increasing complexity of the civil wars. And then there are also different challenges that is related to history, economy, ethnic issue, and culture. And then also the frequencies of severity of natural disasters or man-made disasters. Challenges behavior change. So behavior change, people might think it's easy, but behavior change is not at all that easy. Because today, I decided to go exercise every day. I have that in my head, but to change the behavior, it's not always easy. And that is exactly the same for the populations that we're working in, because they probably already drinking water from the lake directly for the past 10 years or past 20 years. It is hard for them to tell them you need to boil water first, or you need to add the chlorine into water. And also the dependence syndrome. I have to say a lot of countries that we are serving in, especially in Africa, they, for the past decades, they are used to getting foreign aid. So they actually don't feel the needs of growing themselves, especially I'm talking about the government, because the government largely rely on the support from different governments and different organizations and UN agencies. So they don't think that they have the need to develop themselves. And dominated by Western interests. That is very true because, for example, my organization get money from the US, and every donor has their own interest. So donor can say, no, this is not our focus this year. They are not funding that. Or donors say, no, we are doing that. We're not doing that. So at the end of the day, yes, it's dominated by Western interests. Terrible coordination. I can give an example of United Nations. There are so many UN agencies. There are UNICEF, there are UNHCR, there are WFP, there are UN Women. There are so many UN agencies. They do their own thing. Even the press release, they do their own thing. They don't coordinate themselves. So they will say, oh yeah, we have a different mandate. So they work independently and they don't coordinate. And that is terrible. And untrustworthy humanitarian actors, I don't know. Okay, so this is, sorry, I'm talking about the behavior change that. Sorry, I'm going to talk about the untrustworthy actor a bit later. We all know that if you give man a fish, he will eat for one day. Teach a man to fish and he will eat for a lifetime. That's what I say. Is this easy? No, it's not. I gave an example already. Is for us to do behavior change is not that all easy. Or it could also actually be not teaching a man. You need to teach a woman. Perhaps disabled or old, or for example, are the women that have issues. Is you can teach a woman, but there's a widow whose fishing gear was stolen by in-law, or whose river is deadly due to industrial pollution. So that is why I'm saying humanitarian work is not at all easy. It's layer over layers of situations. And then lack of coordination, mentioned earlier, is a lot of times the NGOs, or we don't ask what the beneficiary, what they really want, because the beneficiary can say, I want the NGOs just to ask us what we need and what we would like to in terms of aid, and also to include the beneficiaries. And I know a lot of projects, actually, they just do, they use their Western mindset and they do whatever they want. So this is what you can see. a refugee camp that after 20 years is still a refugee camp, unfortunately. Untrustworthy actors. Don't know if you follow the news. This is a big scandal from Oxfam a few years back. For the service provider, or you can also see a lot of the UN peacekeeping missions, they have sexual abuse scandal, and that is true, that is happening in the ground because the abuse of power, because they come and they said, yeah, I'm the one who giving you aid, I'm the one giving you some resources, and then you need to in favors of maybe having sex with me. So that is a big scandal, and that's tarnish our reputation as a whole sector. So now there are some of the new coordination and humanitarian reform has formed. Now we have cluster system that to work with different NGOs, and we're trying to do partnership more. And then we also coordinate. Yeah, so we have house cluster, wash cluster, or bring together different agencies and trying to work together. Yeah. And now, as I mentioned above, there are also different guidelines that we need to follow. The one that now is well known and then following by everyone is called the Core Humanitarian Standard. I'm not going to details on that. I just give you a knowledge of just telling you humanitarian sector are trying to improve and trying to work together and trying to follow these different qualities to help, and how do we do our job. And then we have a different auditor to come in to audit our work. So I'm just going to go through this fairly quick. Yeah, I think people, just for you to read it. If you're interested, I can send you the link afterwards, because I'm just afraid that people are just going to fall asleep soon. So the pros and cons to work as a humanitarian aid worker. Let me start the pros. Okay, so I can travel to the most exotic countries, and because I have fairly good numbers of holidays compared to in Taiwan. So and it's easy to travel, especially in COVID times. And working in an international environment, if you especially like this environment to work with people from around the world, to be able to speak different languages all at the same time, because so Congo is a French-speaking country. So actually at home, we just mix English with French with our colleagues. And it's actually a job that is quite fulfilled. It's a job that you, for myself, yes, I feel that it's quite the job that I feel brings me a lot of joy and fulfillment. So the downside of this job is far away from family. So if there's any emergency in the family, it will be quite difficult to reach. And I just heard that I have an American friend here. She lost her father last week, and then immediately she had to flew back. So this is the price we have to pay for being so far away from home. High-level stress work, because emergency work is very timely. So a lot of times that we work under a lot of stress. Potentially security risk, what I mentioned a bit earlier. And also difficult to settle down. How to find a partner that will allow you to fly around the world and then to do this job. So these are the pros and cons doing this job. And then I know some people, I think someone mentioned, okay, Junqiao, Development of International Business Studies. Okay, go to Philippines. Okay. To do this job is how to prepare yourself is language. French is very important because most of the countries are largely speaking French here. I wouldn't say Spanish is quite useful because Latin America is mostly in developing countries, and then they have good capacity locally to just hire their local staff. Or I would suggest, if you're interested, to learn Arabic as well. I wish I could speak Arabic. And then be flexible and be open-minded. If you want to go to do a volunteer in different country, just try to be flexible, because the life is just not as easy as it is in Taiwan. You will face bad internet connection, no electricity, no water, all this cultural shock that you will encounter. So be flexible. I think that's the most important characters that you need to have. And be open-minded with different culture, and never give up on applying for jobs. Actually, we are competing with people from around the world, people from Africa, because they all want to have a job in the UN, of course, or the job at an INGOs that is fairly paid well. So it's quite competitive, because we compete with people from the US or the Western countries, and also in Africa. But I would encourage you, I'm not saying you all is going to work for the sector, but there are so many things you can do for the world. So all the stories and faces when you see on BBC, CNN, Al Jazeera, how do you feel? Can you answer? I give you 5 options to choose. Can you type in the chat to show me that you're still awake? Okay, when you usually feel when you read the news, I mean international news, first one is, it's none of my business, plus my boyfriend just broke up with me last week and my world had collapsed. Second, oh, poor them. I'm so glad that I was born in Taiwan. And the third is, as one of the citizens of the world, I should do something. 4 is, it must be their own fault. It's 2022 already. Who doesn't know that you cannot drink water directly from the river? And 5, there's no international news in Taiwan. Okay, you can put 6 if none of above. 5, okay. Okay. 2 answer? Do you have more answer? Just be honest with yourself. Okay. Sorry. 2. Yeah. So no one just broke up with their boyfriend. That's good. 3. Thank you. I see 3. I'm happy. 2. Okay. Yep. All right. Yeah, I'm happy to see that you're still awake and my session is not too boring. Okay. That's fine. Everybody have their own answer. So I would say me, the me when I was about to head off to France, is I probably would say at the time my answer was probably 2. Of course, now working in the sector, my answer is totally 3. So actually, I'm telling you, do you love to travel? I believe yes. You can answer. Do you want to travel to Africa? I'm living in Africa, so I'm focusing on Africa. Have you ever been to Africa? So the way to care about the world, travel is a way, because you are bringing your money, and you are bringing your money to travel, and you are bringing your money to see their culture, to know them, and then to boost their local economy. So actually, travel is a way to care about the world. If you have questions about traveling to Africa, let me know. I know it's a bit difficult to travel during COVID, but after it's opened, Africa it's really, really a nice place to visit. So my answer is to watch international news and start to care. If your answer is particularly 3, internet world, Taiwan also have quite a numbers of good platforms that they have good international news. So don't watch the TV, find it online. And then Al Jazeera is quite nice too. I mean, even though BBC and CNN is usually quite westernized kind of view, so just find a media that you really like and follow them. And pick a topic, follow it, and be a campaigner in your social circle. You can say you care about environmental issue. Then you start to follow the environmental things around the world, and then you talk about it in your social circle. And or you particularly like the country, for example, you feel the pains of the people in Afghanistan, then you follow them and then you talk about it in your social circle. And if you have a possible way, donate to an NGO that you trust and you like, and travel when it's possible to boost local economy. So there are some useful resources here I'm sharing with you. Those are the things that I like very much. I believe everybody has a Netflix account, or if you don't, I use my cousin's Netflix account. And there are 2 documentaries I recommend. The first one is called City of Joy. The City of Joy is an organization in South Kivu, the other province in the south, and they provide support, psychological support to the women that were being raped during the war. And it's such a powerful documentary, and I recommend that you can go watch it. And Virunga is the well-known national park where there are gorillas. So Virunga, if you love animals, you can watch Virunga. It's about the park and also about gorillas. Some reading to do. If you particularly care about women issue, I recommend this book. Also available, it's available in Chinese because the one I have is actually in Mandarin. It's been there for like almost 10 years. I just forget. The name in Chinese is called 他们和他的希望故事, something like that. And the Petit Pays also have a version in Chinese. It's called 小小国. So it talks about, it's a novel, and it talks about from a little boy's perspective to see the war between Rwanda genocide, and it's quite good. And Chasing Chaos, I don't think they have this one in Mandarin, but it's about a life of a humanitarian aid worker. Oh, there's also a movie called A Perfect Day. You can watch. And then the TED Talk, you can Google this, the TED Talk. My favorite TED Talk is this one, because the TED Talk is from UNHCR director that in the 90s, he was held hostage for 317 days in the Chechnya when he was on his mission. So it's really, really powerful. And there's other websites. The Guardian has a column called Secret Aid Worker, or Relief Web, where you can find a lot of information or news and knowing what's going on around the world. And then if you want to do your paperwork or study on different data around the world, World Bank data is a good resources to use. So I encourage you all to, if you're interested in the topic, and especially in Congo, I recommend that. At the end, I would like to use the picture. So this is a lady who worked in one of the camps. In Congo, where they are mostly IDPs, we call it internal displaced personnel. That means they are not the refugee from the neighbor country. Actually, they are the refugee within their own country, so it's called internal. So this lady, she is also a beneficiary herself, but we hire her because she has a background in nursing. So we hire her to support her fellow people. And then also, this is the slogan, and I think each life is worth the extra mile for us to do something. for you to think about. Yeah, I know a lot of times we don't see and we don't feel if you live in Taiwan, because we have everything. Even I know everybody have their own struggles, but the struggles people have here is different. But there's always hope. I'm going to show you a video to end my presentation today. Okay, let me try to find it. Yep. Okay, let me present now. A window. Okay. I hope you can see it, right?
Yes.
Okay, let me play it. Thank you.
Ici, en principe, c'est les chats de démonstration, c'est les chats école. Nous faisons la culture des choux, on fait la culture d'aubergine, on fait aussi des carottes.
Mradi imetusaidia juu tulikuwa hatujua pasula plate band, tulishaweza. Tulikuwa hatujua gisi shu inaweza komala huko. Tuliona gisi imekomala na tushaikula vizuri na watoto sande ilishakuwa bie, bwakili saisha, sie wote tushapata sande ya mzuri.
C'est la technique de paillage. Et là, ça garde aussi l'humidité du sol. Ça va permettre pour que les semences puissent bien vraiment germer. Et comme il fait tellement chaud, donc il reste un grand travail d'arrosage chaque soir, chaque matin.
Na yengine ya pale tulikuwa tuko naenda shota mai kule yulu, lakini mai ilishafika karibu, tutaanja arose mzuri.
Et après, ils vont faire des jardins chacun individuellement chez lui.
Na makuta tulipata franga kwa hizi ishu. Tulisomesha watoto kwa hizi mashu.
Ce qui est plus important dans le cadre de pérenniser les actions, on a appris aux bénéficiaires de produire eux-mêmes la semence.
Kingine hivi kama tunapanda na ingine tu inaomba tuione. Juu antuka tunashukuru sana mbegu tuko na kula mzuri, tunaujisha kadiri mama alisema.
Même après projet, ils continueront toujours à produire la semence et l'activité sera durable.
Na chengine tulikuwa na hatujua aubergine kama iko na kazi gani kumuli ya mtu. Mwa aubergine tulishafundishwa kwa gisi na letaka ngozi ya mtu na kwa teketeka hutazeheka ukizoea kukua na ikule na tumika na kwengine magonjwa mwili. Ona bandera mupatu kunike pale.
Excellent.
Let me try to go back. Okay, so this is the end of my presentation. Thank you. Here they say merci, and also in Eastern Congo they speak Kiswahili. Kiswahili. Oh no, what I'm speaking in Chinese. Sorry. Did I just speak it? Oh, sorry. I'm just having some language problem. Yeah. So in the Eastern Congo they also speak Kiswahili. Kiswahili is one of the biggest language in Eastern Africa. So like in Tanzania and Kenya, they all speak Swahili. So asante means thank you. I know you probably don't use Facebook as the university students nowadays. I'm considered as an older generation. I use Facebook. Anyway, I have a page that I write about my daily life. So it's there. If you're interested to know my life in Congo, you can feel free to visit. So I think we still have quite a bit of time. If you would like to know anything specific, open up your mic or let me know who you are. Thank you for your participation and have a good weekend.
Okay, thank you for the sharing that I believe most of students really enjoy it. Yep. Ask for me. Yep. So if you have any question would like to ask, please don't be shy and just type or turn on your microphone. Okay. You can type your question here or in another platform or the Slido.
Yeah, anything. If you want to know what is fun in Africa, I can give you information about East Africa because I'm not familiar with West. But if you know what is fun and where to go, I can let you know.
So far, there's no question from the Slido. So maybe you can leave the message directly in the Google Meet. Michael have one question. Michael, you can turn on your microphone or you can just type.
Hi, Michael. Where are you from?
Michael, we can't hear you.
Michael is actually from Solomon Island.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Still cannot hear you, Michael. Maybe you can type out your questions in the chat box.
You hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
I will type here.
它好像有
You're using two devices, so that's where the echo coming from.
Okay. The challenges I highlighted. So it's the I think burnout, security, and corruption. I have to be very honest. That is why everybody have different coping mechanism, and I know some of the people don't have the right coping mechanism. So it's largely smoke, alcohol, and all that. Was a time that we started drinking on Monday after work. But my new coping mechanism is cooking. So actually from 2020, because I couldn't go back to Taiwan, and because we were stuck in country, we cannot go anywhere. We stuck in country because there was no flight. We stuck in country for 7-8 months, and we didn't have like the crazy lockdown like Europe. So we still go to offices, but we have reduced our social interaction. So we do a lot of things at home. So I started to cook. So cooking become part of my, I found it very soothing. So different people have different coping mechanism. Some of my colleagues, they do a lot of sports. So everyone has their own. It is really tiring, especially after initially I signed up for 2-year contract, and then in the last year, I just recently finished in January. So the third year is particularly difficult because we're tired of the situation, especially the volcano eruption and all that. Personally, I am actually, for now, I'm leaving Congo in 2 weeks' time and to take a long break. So the break that is why we have something we call it R&R. It's called rest and recuperation. That is on top of our annual leave, and that happens every 3 months. The organization give you 5 days, and they give you some, quite about like $1,000 just to go on a break. So different organizations have different rules on that. So we have the R&R, and also for the challenges security, we have security measure that we need to take. But it is quite challenging, especially if you stay in the context for too long. Congo is interesting because the environment is good. The weather is perfect. The weather is so much better than Taiwan because we are, the altitude is about 1,500. So the weather here is pleasant. It's yearly round, about average weather is 25 degrees. So it's not the Africa people think about must be really, really hot. So the weather is good. The environment is actually not bad. It's just the context here, it's quite draining. So I hope that I answer your questions. Is coping mechanism, and different people have different ways of coping stress. What do I miss the most when I'm being so far away from home? I miss my family, my mom. I'm really close to my mom. So I think doing this kind of work, the most important thing is you need to have your family to support you, which I know might not be the case of a lot of Asian family, especially saying, oh, you're a girl going somewhere. And actually, I told my mom, I'm looking for my next destinations of my next mission. And I told her I really want to go to Afghanistan because Afghanistan now have a big humanitarian needs. And especially, all the media is talking about Afghanistan. So she's okay with me being in Congo, not okay with me being in Afghanistan. So I really miss her. And actually, I'll be in Taiwan in early April. So yeah. Also, I think what I really miss is sometimes I miss to go to an orchestra, to a theater, or to go to the movie cinema. So we miss this kind of normal life, like the life that people, just a daily life that we don't have here. Yeah. The most important skill to work in the NGO. Okay. So I would suggest language is the basic. Then you need to develop different type of set of skill, depending on different sector. So there's no specific. So because we function more like an office, So an office like you need finance. So if you have good finance background, me, I'm HR, project management. So if you work for an organization like us, you work for health. A lot of my colleagues, they are paramedics. So they're either doctors, nurses, pharmacists, or we also have civil engineer. We also have someone who has a law background. What else? Or some people are doing also, yeah, we also have like people actually from different background, but they all have their own kind of a niche that they have. But we, in the sector, it depends. It really depends what are you good at and what is your study or what, yeah. So just have, sometimes you need to have a good technical background. But I would say language probably is the most important thing to have the second language, second foreign language, sorry. I think what is important is actually Mandarin is not that useful in the sector. So yeah, to learn a second foreign language, that's what I said, to have French or Arabic, that could also help. But I think the NGOs that you're talking about is the INGOs, right? Not the NGOs in Taiwan. Because if the NGOs in Taiwan, a lot of them are focusing on social work, so it's a little bit different. Yeah, it's a little bit different. Okay, yeah. Thank you for the questions. I hope I have answered you so far, and if you haven't, let me know if I haven't.
If you don't know how to type your question in English, you also, of course, you can type in Mandarin Chinese. Okay?
其实我也可以用中文回答啦，
Yeah.
就是不需要一直就是
As I know, yeah, okay.
可以讲中文。
如果我知道里面有很多学伴啊，或者是想要去交换的同学，对，你们其实对于国际移动应该都蛮有兴趣的。那可以把握时间，好好的来问个问题哦。
我想知道交换是去哪里？
然后去交换了自己打上你们的想要去的国家。Okay, another question.
Okay, it's a okay. 这是一个 PTSD， 这是一个非常好的问题。它存在，但是没有说大家都有 PTSD， 但是蛮多人有的。我知道的有一些人会有，就是尤其是一些经历过比较重大事件的，就是重大事件的同仁会有。然后但是像我们组织的话也对，刚刚没有提到就是我们组织有 counseling service， 就是就是我们针对不同的发生的事件，然后我们可以去online 去 booking 那个叫什么諮商，心理諮商。 我不知道我没有回答到 Julianne 的问题，如果没有回答到的话，你可以开麦克风。OK， 对。
OK， 同学不要害羞，可以问问题。
也不用逼迫大家了。
对，
你们
OK。
接下来还有什么其他想问的或是知道的话，可以就是看怎么样可以私讯我，或是什么都可以。那我其实蛮支持，就是因为台湾毕竟能见度在这个领域非常的不高嘛。对，因为我们台湾人其实除非有双重国籍，不然你在 UN agency 是看不到的。或是比较少数。虽然说我在这边有认识一个台湾人，但他其实就是美国人，所以我蛮希望有更多年轻人可以透过在这种 NGO 国际 NGO 的领域上面，然后让其他世界的人看到台湾有更多的参与。
看起来好像都还蛮没题的，可能还在思考。大家可以去 follow 他的粉专，里面有什么事情，就是可以知道他们在刚果的生活。差不多。
就是谢谢大家。然后谢谢暨南大学。
差不多了。OK， 如果同学都没有问题的话，那我们今天的讲座就差不多到这边。那thank you for sharing OK， 然后我们就是来拍一张合照好了。没关系 ，It's OK。如果大家方便turn on your camera. Okay. We can have a group photo right now, and you can turn on your camera, and we have like Photoshop. Wait a minute. I'll take it. Hello. Is that okay? Okay. 3, 2, 1. Say cheese. Okay, great. Thank you for everyone. 然后我们今天的讲座差不多就到这里。之后我会把 Sharon 今天分享的影片，然后如果你今天有分享2个影片寄给大家
有好，对，然后
你 PPT 如果有方便提供可以，如果没有的话也没关系。对，
可以啊。
好，那我会再把它寄给大家。那我们今天的活动也有录影档，对，那事后我们就会把这个的录影放到国务组的那个 YouTube 上面，所以如果你想要再看一次练习你的英文听力，或者是分享给你同学也可以。OK， So 好 ，Here is the end of this event. Thank you for all. Okay, so you can leave right now. And okay, goodbye. Good. See you.